Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon to some. Thank you for attending our webinar today on the RFID Egg Hunt app with TracerPlus. I'm your presenter, Joe Kraebel. I'm a mobile solutions architect here at Portable Technology Solutions. I've been here for over 23 years now, and I've created a bunch of mobile applications for customers, and we kind of wanted to give you a peek under the hood of an app we typically refer to as an Easter egg hunt, where you're looking for multiple RFID tags at the same time. So we'll just look at our agenda for today. So first I'm going to talk about what is TracerPlus and how RFID ties into TracerPlus. We're going to look at how the Geiger is used at a high level, and as well as some different use cases for using the Geiger, or tag locator as some refer to it. Once we review that, we'll go right into a live demonstration of the Easter egg hunt demo app. After we're completed, I'll show you how to actually get the app so you can actually start using it yourself. And then at the end of the webinar, we'll have a question and answer period. So if you do have any questions at any point during the webinar, please feel free to type them into the questions panel, and we will address those at the conclusion of the demonstration. All right, so TracerPlus and RFID. So TracerPlus allows you to do a rapid setup of an RFID application in minutes, no coding required. We do have flexible hardware support, so we work with most Android and iOS devices. When it comes to RFID, we natively support Zebra's hardware, Janam, CipherLab, as well as some TCL sleds. So we do offer enterprise class RFID features. So for most use cases, you can configure RFID for mass inventory, doing single RFID tag scanning, mass RFID tag scanning, and we also include barcode support for your apps where you may want to convert your existing barcode inventory into RFID. So that could be as simple as scanning a barcode and printing an RFID tag on a RFID capable printer. You can also use TracerPlus to assign RFID tags to your existing items by scanning the barcode of your item. Then you could scan the barcode of your RFID tag or scan the RFID tag itself to then associate those two together. So you have your Geiger use cases, you have your single find, your Easter egg hunt, or mass find. So that enables you to quickly locate specific items with that signal strength guidance that we commonly refer to as Geiger. So like a Geiger counter back in the days, as you get closer to an item, it'll beep more frequently, and in some cases even louder. TracerPlus also offers seamless data flow to your existing databases or backend systems. We also support the syncing to Excel spreadsheets, text files, as well as our PTS cloud or your own cloud systems with little to no IT complexity. All right, so your different RFID Geiger modes. So first off, Geiger, meaning the ability to use RFID to play a sound based on hearing back from an RFID tag. So that's that concept of, as you're getting closer to a tag, you'll hear that beeping more frequently. And on some devices, that beeping gets lower or louder based on your proximity to that item. So a general use case for Geiger could be for locating a single lost item. So you can either key in or scan or even select a tag that you're looking to find, and then essentially click a button to pop up the Geiger counter, and then simply hold in the trigger to use that Geiger feature. Some vertical use cases could be in a hospital setting, maybe nurses looking for a valuable piece of equipment but they don't want to disturb patients when they're doing so. So you could simply, open the door, have that trigger pressed. If you don't hear any beeping at all, simply just move on to the next room and repeat until you're able to find that item. All right, so the RFID Easter egg hunts. So Easter egg we refer to in most cases. So it's the ability to find hundreds or even thousands of lost items while using an RFID device. The general use case for this, maybe you're using our Clearstream RFID software, or a mobile device management system, or even a network asset tracking system that doesn't hear from a piece of equipment for so many days. In this case, you may have a DB update a field, setting it to maybe a status of missing or lost. And then they can take this application, grab that list of lost items, and simply walk around trying to locate them. Another vertical type of use case is lost mobile laptops in large firms, where maybe the network has not seen it for so many days. Software in those devices are software as a service, and they need to locate and validate that these laptops are not lost to optimize that SaaS spend and properly report asset values for accounting purposes. So if you haven't seen those assets in so many days, you can use this Egg Hunt app to load up those missing items and then walk around the facility to try and find those items. All right, so that's kind of the high-level overview of the Geiger and the Egg Hunt app that we're going to be doing. So now we're going to move on to the live demonstration piece. Here's a few screenshots of the actual application I'm going to be using today. So with that being said, I'm going to jump right over to our TracerPlus website here. So one way you can get this app, and I'll go into more detail, but I just want to show you the app I'm using today. If I go to this pre-built mobile apps, and I can find it in retail inventory and asset tracking. So if I go into inventory, and we scroll down, we'll see the RFID Geiger Egg Hunt app. If I go to details, it's going to give you a brief overview of what you're going to download and some screenshots. You can go through this image carousel here to show different screenshots of the app. This will give you a different description of the item, as well as some device compatibility at the bottom. And you could also click this download app, and that'll download a TPE file. Since I already have this application, I'm going to just go right to desktop. I'm going to go ahead and open it. It's the Geiger Egg Hunt app. This app consists of 3 sessions. So the first being the item locator. That is the actual form we're going to use to do the locating of items. So when we first go to the app, we'll be prompted of how we want to load that list of items to locate. We can get that list from a database, or we can use a list created on the device itself. The next page is going to be our actual meat and potatoes of the app. This is where you're actually going to find the items by just simply pressing and holding the trigger, and I will be demonstrating that. And then the third page, since we're hardware agnostic, gives you the option to choose the manufacturer of RFID device you're using. So this allows you to select, whether it be Zebra, Janam, CipherLab, or TSL, the RFID reader you're intending to use with this application, and then simply set that reader, and now it's set until you physically change it. This eliminates the need to actually go into desktop, go to the advanced, and kind of enable or disable the RFID reader you're using. This is an easy way for you to just select the reader as you're using the app, and then not have to set it again. The second piece of this is the add items. So we wanted to give you an option to be able to just add items on the device itself to easily demonstrate the functionality of this app. So this eliminates the need to actually connect it to a database and sync items over if you just want to quickly see how to use this application. So it's just a pretty straightforward form. You scan an RFID tag, you scan an item number, and you enter a description for the item, you submit it, you can repeat for additional items, and then those items will show up in the item locator session. And the last piece, like I discussed, that was that RFID device that we're enabling you to set. This just simply stores that value and is called upon when opening that form. All right, so if I pull over a device here, so I'm using a tool called Visor to show the screen of my RFID device. You'll see here, once you install TracerPlus from the Play Store, you'll be presented with the sample applications. So from a basic use case, and if you wanted to actually see, the Geiger in use, you could use the scan RFID tags. I can select the type of device I'm using, and then simply select the location, scan a bunch of tags. You'll see how you can quickly mass scan items using RFID. And then I could go to locate, I could click on an item, and I could click locate, and then we can try and find that item. You can kind of hear it beeping in the background here as I get closer. So that's just the general functionality of Geiger, and you can actually use this out of the box with TracerPlus with our sample applications that we pre-install. And this also communicates directly to our cloud, so you could sync this data and then view it on the cloud itself. But that's not really what we're going to be showing today. I'm going to go ahead and download this project to my device. So I'm simply going to click the build deploy, go ahead and click deploy. That'll pop up a QR code. On my device, I can go to the menu, download project. Then I can actually scan that QR code with the barcode scanner on my device. And once I do that, you'll see that I now have that Geiger Egg Hunt app. So here's our two sessions. We have our item locator and our add items. So if I were to go into item locator, obviously the first thing it's going to do is prompt me to select the reader that I want to use. In this case, I do happen to be using an XR2, so I'm just going to set that reader. And now we have the options of how we want to locate items, whether it's getting it from a database or use a list on device. If I did click this use list on device, you'll get prompted, since I haven't added anything yet, that no items to locate have been found, and basically instructing you to use that locate to add item session or get the list from a database. So I'm going to exit. I'm going to go to add items. Then I'm going to scan an RFID tag. So this can be either a barcode value of your EPC, or you can scan the actual tag by clicking the toggle button to switch back and forth between RFID and barcode. I'm going to use barcode for that part. So I'm going to scan tag, and then I'm going to scan an item number. I'm just going to scan some random barcode here. And then we'll just call it test item 1. Go ahead and submit that record. You'll notice that we're keeping the barcode or I should say item number and description in case you want to assign multiple tags to that same item. So I'll scan the next one, submit, scan another one, submit. And I can click the clear button if I want to change that. So I'll scan the next item, scan another barcode here. And we'll say this is test item 2. Submit that. And we'll do one more and submit. So now we have 5 items in the items to locate. If I wanted to view those, I could just click the view data under add items. This will just show us what we just added. Now if I go into item locator, I can click use list on device. And now we see those 5 items that I had added. So now it's just a matter of holding the trigger and walking around. You'll kind of see some tags being found as I'm scanning here. So you'll see once it finds one of the items, it pops it up automatically into Geiger mode. And then I'm still holding the trigger. You'll hear it beep. I'll kind of move away. I'll get closer again, and it'll beep more frequently. you also see that progress bar as well. If you did want to turn down the volume, or you didn't want to, annoy people, in the case of, maybe a hospital, you don't want to disturb patients, you could turn that volume down or even turn it off at all and just use that progress bar to see how close you're getting. So let's say I found the item, I'll close the dialog, I'll click found. That's going to mark that item as found, removing it from that list. So now I'm only looking for 4 items. So I'll just walk around, scan again a little bit. So I'll go ahead and hold the trigger down again. There it is. I've found it. We'll click close, mark it as found. At any point, you could also click on an item. Let's say, I'm looking for this item. I can actually just click it. It'll pop the Geiger, and then I can just start walking around and just try to find that specific item. So you can also use that app for this as well. So I can close, mark as found. So essentially you can walk around scanning items until you found all these items and mark them as found. If I wanted to restart the process, I can simply click done. That's going to reset the found flags. And then if I go use list on device, you'll see that all 5 appear now so that I can go ahead and test it out again. So the next thing I want to show is actually getting a list from a database. So I actually just added a table to the TracerPlus Connect samples. So if I just slide that over, that is located by default in the program files, PTS TracerPlus Connect 10 data folder, our sample access database, and I have it open already. And I just added a table called items to locate. So I added those fields, tag ID, item number, description. I added 10 items. And then simply the next thing I would do is go over to Connect, which I already have pre-configured, but I'll actually show you how I created this. So I'll start a new project. I'll click the new profile. This is going to be a sync profile. I'm going to go to where that desktop project is saved, which happens to be my C TracerPlus desktop projects folder. It is the Geiger Egg Hunt. We'll select the TPP. We'll create that profile. And let's call it sync to device. And I'll add a process to that. We'll call it get items to locate. Our source we want to pull it from is this access database in this table. So since this is our TracerPlus Connect sample database, I can select that as the source. So type ODBC, data source is TracerPlus Connect sample. Table is items to locate. And on the destination side, I want to set where I want to send this data to in the app. So we'll choose TracerPlus. And since we associated our desktop project, we're only showing our available sessions. So the add items is the one I want to sync it to. Then I'll just reset these mappings. Move these around so that they map up. So tag ID to tag ID, item number to item number, description to description. I don't need that other field. And then I can just choose the option of how I want to send this data, or post it, I should say. I want to overwrite that. So every sync I do, I'll just overwrite that list. And that's pretty much it. I'll go ahead and save the project. Just go to my C drive here. I have a folder TracerPlus Connect, and since I already have this project, Geiger Egg Hunt sync, we'll just overwrite that. Then if we jump over to Data Viewer, that's also going to show us what I have in that Access database. So there's my 10 records. If I jump over to the synchronize screen, this just kind of gives us a sync progress once we actually do a sync. And then if we go to desktop and we go to item locator, this button is already configured to point to profile 1 and connect. And if we jump to connect, Go back over to configure. You'll see that this is profile 1. And then the host ID is pulled from the Project Connect tab. So rather than needing you to put an IP address or PC name, I have enabled this to just scan a QR code. That means that once you press that sync button, it's going to prompt you to scan a QR code, which I'll show you in Connect. And I'm also choosing to save the host, meaning that all subsequent syncs will scan to that, or should say sync to that PC that you scanned the QR code for. So let's go to Connect, Synchronize. Let's go back to my device. I'm going to click this Get List from DB. So here it's going to say Scan QR code to sync. So if I click this little Scan to sync here, you'll see under the Profile Explorer, I can expand that QR code. And if I bring the device into focus again, if I scan this QR code, you'll see that it automatically connects and it sent the 10 records. And now those 10 records are showing up on my handheld. And it automatically brought us over to that locator screen. So it's going to be that same process. I'm just going to hold that trigger down as soon as we find something. Pops up that Geiger. And then we can start kind of walking close, walking farther away until we get to that 100%. One thing you can also do is actually adjust the radio power in the Geiger dialog. So I could take this power down. You'll see it'll beep less frequently, just so I can really home in on that item. As I pull away just slightly, you'll see that it goes down pretty significantly because I lowered that power. But as I get right up on it, we get that 100%. So now we're going to go ahead. I'm going to go back here. I'm just going to exit this for a second. Go back in. So since I already synced that data to the device, I don't actually have to click Get List from DB. I can click Use List on Device because technically we sync that data and now it is on the device. So rather than sync it again, I can just click Use List on Device. Close that, mark it as found. Scan again. Close, mark as found, press the trigger again. And when I'm pressing the trigger, I'm holding it in. So you just kind of walk around holding your finger on that trigger. And then as it finds something, it'll pop that dialog. You'll see as I'm marking this found, this items to locate goes down. So I'm down to 7 items to find. So I find this one, mark it as found. We're down to 6, or actually I must have clicked that twice. We're down to 5. I don't know if you can hear that, but as soon as that Geiger dialog pops up, it does make a sound on the device. So if you don't happen to be looking at the device, you'll know that it did pop the Geiger. You can now kind of look at the screen and see that it's open and then just see the progress. That's found. We're down to 4. So I could, just mark all these as found if I wanted to. And if you wanted to add another step to this, you could add another sync button that could then send these found items back to a database, letting you know that, you found these items, but maybe still didn't find these items. When you're finished, simply click Done. And like I said, if you wanted to repeat the process, just click that Use List on the device, and we have that items to locate at 10 again. This app is really for demonstration purposes to prove out that technology for you. So if you didn't want to roll this into an existing session, you could. And you may want to tweak that behavior of how that works. So Once you click done, you may just want to clear that list so that you don't see items anymore and then forcing them to click that get list from device. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you today for that Geiger Egg Hunt app. Let me just show you how to get it within desktop. So if you jump back to the welcome screen and click on samples, you'll see those same categories that we saw on the website. So this is going to be listed under retail, inventory, and asset tracking. So let's say if I go to asset tracking, I believe it's at the bottom. There's our Geiger Egg Hunt. Once again, it's going to give you that carousel of the different screenshots. It's going to give you that brief description, what's compatible with it, some of its key features, and then I can click next, and then I can click import, click finish, click yes. Since I already have this project, it just overwrote it, and there it is, ready to go. Simply just click build, deploy, and then on your handheld, go to the menu, download, and then scan that QR code of the project, and then you now have the project on your handheld. So that's it for the demonstration. We can now move on to some questions and answers. So if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to type them into the question panel, and we will address those. I'll also pull up our contact info. So if you do happen to have any questions after this webinar, feel free to reach out to our sales team at this information here. You can also check us out on LinkedIn and subscribe to our TracerPlus YouTube channel to see interesting and insightful videos, some on new technology, some on how to do things. I would recommend subscribing to that. And I also do want to mention that this webinar is being recorded and will most likely be posted to that channel for later viewing. So if you want to send it to anyone that wasn't able to attend, feel free to do so. Okay, so we do have a couple of questions here. The first being, how do I get the host ID to populate a QR code for a public-facing IP if TP Connect registers an internal IP? So that question is referring to Connect and using this QR code. So the only thing you should be able to do or should need to do for that is simply go up to this host address, type in whatever IP you want. So it'll be your public facing IP. I'll just do 10.10.10.10. Let's just say. You'll notice that that IP address changes. And then I can click this save QR code. I'll save it to my desktop. We can maybe call it TP Connect Sync. Click save. Now you could send that QR code to anybody you want so that when they scan it, it should now get that 10.10.10.10 IP address. So as long as you set that to your public facing IP, you should be able to use that feature. All right, we do have another question. This customer has a use case where they want to scan a bunch of chemicals in a cabinet, take an inventory of those items, have an option to push them to a database. I then want to be able to remove a chemical from the cabinet, perform another scan and see which ones are missing, select the missing tag and use the Geiger to locate the missing chemical. Would this app do that? So this app is not specifically set to do that. This is more for knowing what that missing list is already and loading it to that device and then being able to find it. You can do an application like this, and it is actually very common, where we actually do inventory of whether it be chemical or assets. And if I just jump over to our PowerPoint, I do have a screenshot of a similar app to that. So if you look at this, oops, the fourth image here, inventory, so that was essentially the client would select the building they were scanning for, then select a room. They would then mass scan any assets in that room. In your case, it could be chemicals in that cabinet. Once they hit posts, it would do a comparison to what is expected. So it show you a list of what was found, what's missing, and then maybe what's not expected, meaning that it's a valid asset in the system or chemical in the system, but it was expected maybe in a different cabinet. And right then and there, you could actually use the Geiger. You don't necessarily need to use this Egg Hunt app, but you could go right to missing, view those three items, and click one of those, and you can even roll the Egg Hunt into this if you didn't want to select each one individually. But in this case, it was the user just selecting the chemical they wanted to look for. They click a locate button. If they found it, they mark it as found. It then gets set to found, removing it from missing and then move to found. So you could do that at the time of the actual inventory, or you could do it in your case, maybe where you do a first run of the inventory, pull some out, scan it again, and you'll see those show up as missing. And you could essentially send that back to your database as items to locate, or you could incorporate this Egg Hunt feature into this application. Hoping that addresses your question. If you do have further questions on that, feel free to reach out to our sales team. They can provide more information on that. We also do offer services where we can create that application for you. As we've done that many times, that's a very common app for RFID. Question on, do these devices use Bluetooth? So that depends on the device that you use. So some devices from Zebra and Janam do have integrated RFID, such as Zebra's new TC22R. That's a new device they just came out with that has integrated RFID in a nice sleek form factor. The Janam XR2 I'm using today is also a fully integrated unit. But if you did see the need to use a non-RFID device, it could be a Zebra TC series or something like that that doesn't have RFID, or even an Android phone or iOS device, you could get an RFID sled that supports Bluetooth, such as Zebra's RFD40, their RFD90. TSL also has some sleds where you can connect via Bluetooth to those, and those will act as an RFID reader tethered to that device. But even integrated units do have Bluetooth on the device itself, so you could connect to Bluetooth printers and such, but since it's already integrated into the unit, there's no need to Bluetooth to an RFID device. All right, we do have another question here. Another one that asking about, we have TracerPlus license. Is the desktop included in that license? Yes, the desktop tool is free to use and design your apps. The actual license is on the device itself when you log in to the application or log into TracerPlus. That license entitles you to use the app as well as sync with the Connect software. So yeah, all that is included. Another question on, not really related to this, but interested in the application that I'm using to show my mobile device on the screen. Yes, that is a tool called Visor, V-Y-S-O-R. Let me just open the actual app itself. So this is what it looks like. The only thing you need to note is that the devices you do have connected need to have USB debugging enabled. So you'll see I have two devices showing up. I have the Janam XR2 and I have the Zebra MC3300X. as possible devices that I can show my screen with. And you can also, I think if you get the Pro version, which is, I want to say it's like $40 maybe, I haven't looked in a while. If you get the Pro version, you'll be able to use a Wi-Fi or network connection to show your screen as well. Right now, I'm just connected via USB cable, but you can use network connectivity if you get the Pro version to mirror that screen. So if you just do a Google search for Visor, VYSOR, it should pop up as probably the first result, and it's a free download. Another question here asking if there is an option to manually enter the RFID number into the app to find the product. In this particular app that I showed, no, this is strictly meant for showing items to locate that are pre-entered, whether that be synced from a database or added via this form here. You could use a different, excuse me, a different application or different form to actually key in and find an item. And I believe we do have some on the app library that demonstrates that. So if I just look at our samples, be under other, this one here, I believe, would enable you to manually key in an item and find it, but it's pretty easy to use. If you didn't want to create something, I'll just show you real quickly. I'll even add it in this project. I'll create a new form. I'll call it, let's just say, find item. Just add the field called tag ID. I don't need any of these other fields. Create the default. All I simply really need to do is add a button. I'll just call it find item. I'll show my controls by clicking this ID. And the button action is going to be RFID tag locator. And then you just need to tell it what fields control has that value. So in this case, it's control 5. And then the only other thing I would need to do is go to data capture, enable RFID. And if you're doing a Geiger only session, it's typically best to use session 0 for that. And then I'll usually just up the power to max and then simply deploy that. You can then key in a value to this field, click this button, pop up the Geiger, and simply use that to find it. Back to that Bluetooth Connect question. I don't know if you were referring to a device communicating to a RFID sled or something via Bluetooth, or if you're referring to a device communicating with a PC via Bluetooth for syncing data. If you're referring to the latter, that's not something that's supported. It would have to be done over some sort of network connection, whether that be Wi-Fi. It could be an Ethernet cradle or a USB to Ethernet adapter, or you can use cellular as well, and then have a port that's open on your router to redirect that traffic to a local machine. Or in the cases, if you did happen to use our PTS cloud, you wouldn't have to worry about that as long as you had internet access. And yes, they did confirm that this was referring to not being able to get the device on the same network as the computer. So yeah, the cases I mentioned are the only ways you'd be able to do that. You know, you may not want to use Wi-Fi in that case then. A lot of facilities that are kind of locked down to that do you find that they're able to use Ethernet in those cases to get it on the same network. So you could get that Ethernet cradle if the device has one, or they make USB to Ethernet adapters through Portsmouth that we offer that would allow you to sync to that on the same network. Sometimes the IT team can also reroute traffic on different networks, so they may be able to reroute that to the proper PC. I believe there's a question here on if you could send the webinar to an email address. I believe everyone who attended will get an email summary of the webinar with the recording. And the recording will also be posted to our YouTube channel, so keep an eye out for that. All right, let me just bring this up one more time. So, like I said, if you do have any questions after this, feel free to reach out to our sales team at the information on this slide. Looks like we don't have any questions. So once again, I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy day to attend this webinar and get to know the Geiger functionality within TracerPlus a little bit more and what's possible. So thanks everyone, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.